Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. So this is the second video of 5 more beginner tips for using Stateflow to make state machines. So in the last video, we went through 5 very basic tips. And again, in this video, we're just going to cover another 5 basic tips again. So although these tips are super easy to use and there's nothing really complicated to them, they do become very helpful as you're going about building state machines in Stateflow. So let's get straight into it. Tip number 1, use the space bar to fit the entire chart to the screen. This one's very simple. If I take 2 states, right, and then if I was to zoom in on one of them like this, for example, right, and let's say I then wanted to do a transition like this. Okay, so just a silly little state machine there. Now, as you can see, I'm panning around using my mouse here, but if I was working on this and I was saying, okay, this is on, and then I wanted to see the rest of my chart, all I have to do is just, if I hit the space bar, it will immediately show me the entire chart. So if I call this one off, right, and then let's now create a third state down here, and that, and we can even move it even further away. So now if I'm working like this and I hit spacebar, it will literally fill your screen with your entire state machine. And trust me, this is a game saver. Get used to it as you're working. Get used to just hitting the space bar and being able to see your entire space and being able to see your entire state machine. All right, so tip number 2 is using the auto arrange shortcut. So this shortcut is Control Shift A. So Control plus Shift plus A, and it will auto arrange your chart. And I'll show you what I mean. So all right, so here I've got a bit of a silly state machine whereby basically you've got a bunch of variables, and we're saying that on entry x is equal to 1, and then we've got x, if x is equal to 1, then transition over to off and make y equals to 2, and then upon exit y is equal to 1, and then if x is still equal to 1, then a becomes equal to 2. Okay, so very silly state machine, but here you can see it's not, you can't really read it. So you could maybe like adjust this if you wanted to, pull that down. You could also move the things out. Easiest thing to do, and again, it's going to be a game changer. Control Shift A, and look at that. It will automatically adjust both the states and the text so that it fits nice and neatly there. So again, if you had the states like this, for example, you have the states a bit like that, messed up, you can't really read it. Control Shift A. Yeah, so it's not 100%, but it's a very good feature. All right, so this is a very big one. I mean, renaming variables. Tip number 3, rename variables. So you can rename your variables and then update all of the instances of that variable. And trust me, when you get big state machines, and even when you're programming, you want to rename all your one variable, rename the entire variable, it becomes a headache. So this is an amazing feature. So if I now come over to here, so I've got x written here. If I select this variable up here and I change it to new x, you can see here it says press Shift Enter to rename 3 references. So it knows, I've called it new c, let's call it new x. So it knows that I'm changing the variable name. So if I just click off of it now, it's gonna go, okay, well, we need the new x variable, and it just becomes, it's not great at all. So what I need to do is, if I go back, so I call it new x variable, and then I do Shift and Enter, and then look at that, it renames all of those instances of that variable in this data chart. And I'm telling you, this is amazing. Now I can press Control Shift A again, and it does its best to clear things up for me. All right, so next tip is double clicking on transitions to write events or conditions or labels. And again, this might seem simple, but a lot of people, I've seen even videos on YouTube of people teaching, and they teach like this, which it was painful for me to watch. So if you've got a transition here, they'll come over here and click event name, or they'll come, for example, click on transition and then click on this question mark and then come to condition and then start typing. That's all long. Don't do that. Just double click on the transition and then you're free to start typing straight away. You can press your condition and you can say new x variable is equal to so just double click on the transition and it will take you straight to be able to type, and then you're good to go. So when you click on the transition one time, it'll come up with this question mark, and then sometimes you get like this add a breakpoint thing. Don't worry about any of that. Just double click on the transition and then you're good to start typing. All right, so tip number 5, very, very important one when you're doing, anything programming wise, is to add some comments. Super easy to do. Comments are done using percentage sign, and then you can say this is a comment. Now you can press Control Shift A, make it bigger, beautiful. All right, you can put off state for when Ahmed accidentally presses off. Now I can do Control Shift A, and then I can even press Spacebar. You know what I mean? So you'll see that you'll be able to start combining all of these various different things, and it will make using Stateflow a lot easier. For me personally, using it, I struggled a lot before I learned all of these various different keyboard shortcuts. And again, comments are very, very important. I don't know why I wrote accident. There should be accidentally. Control Shift A. But no more. You don't need to anymore like start dragging state machines like this or any of that stuff. Just Control Shift A and make your life easy. Beautiful. All right, then as with the last video, instead of leaving you with just 5 tips, I'll give you an extra bonus tip just because I'm nice like that, and I appreciate you guys watching the whole way through. So final bonus tip would be that you can actually add events and do things with variables in the actual default transition itself. So if we go over to the default transition here, we can double click on it, and then we can actually just, for example, type x is equal to 0. And there we go. Now what we have is we have a new variable that as soon as the Stateflow starts, immediately it makes x equal to 0. And this is important to remember when you're doing default states and default transitions when it comes to hierarchies as well. You can immediately do events and actions within the default transition. So instead of, for example, having on, so you have the on state and then you have upon entry, new x variable is equal to 1. Perhaps, for example, you don't want that. You might not want this to become 1 every single time it enters the on state. So for example, as it goes from off to on, you might not want this to become 1 again. So what you do is you come up here and then you can put that all here. And now think about that. So it'll go from this off state back into on, and then continue on with the Stateflow or stop, as opposed to, for example, activating this. So this is where it becomes very, very useful to use the default state or default transition. I mean, yeah, so that's it. That's my 6 tips for this. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. If you learned something, leave a like. And if you have any questions, leave a comment. And yeah, I shall see you guys in the next one.